Hello and welcome to the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Our guest today is Markitta Gaston, and she is a consultant and a speaker. And Markitta can tell you how to empower yourself as a woman and how to kind of fulfill your dreams. If you have an idea to become a business person, whatever your dream may be, you have a knack for kind of helping people figure out what they want to do. So let's welcome you. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's get started by talking about how did you get started?
So I guess I found my purpose when I moved from the Washington, D.C. area to Los Angeles, California. So being stripped of my comfort zone and everything I knew, and I got fired, which was not my norm. So it made me self-reflect, and I just started thinking, okay, what do I really want to do in this world? And slowly but surely, my purpose of helping people, empower people, start to cultivate itself.
Why do you think one of the keys to women kind of moving ahead is to empower yourself for us to start developing our own thing?
I feel like women, so we're natural nurturers, so we always want to take care of everybody else, but we don't realize when we take care of ourselves, we can take care of everyone else better. So I think when we look inside of ourselves and I empower women and teach them those things, then they're better suited in business, in their family lives, in all areas that we already we're already like bosses in. We're 10 times better when we do it for ourselves.
A lot of times, too, people live on the outside, but when you're looking for your purpose, how important is it for you to look on the inside?
It's extremely important. It's extremely important because I feel like we seek validation on the outside, but all the answers, you know everything. Everything that you need is already in you. If you really sat down with yourself and in silence, you'll get the answers that you need for sure.
I think one of the main things that keeps people from being everything they can be is fear. How did you overcome your fears?
I don't think it's something you can overcome, but it's something you can actually work at. So you just have to continue to do something scared. So that's my motto. One of my tagline is trust your gut, don't overthink it, and do it scared. So fear is going to be there, something that little creep that always going to be in the back of your mind, but your job is to overpower that, to reprogram yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to do this in spite of.
So you've got to manage that fear.
Manage it. I mean, fear is not real, it's actually a lie. But it's overcoming that lie over and over again. So it's just like building the muscles, just like exercising. It's just like anything you do, you have to work at it. And the more you do something scared, the more you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. And then you'll do something else scared. So it's just overcoming those things that are scary to you.
So do you consider yourself a life coach, or what do you consider yourself?
I say transformational coach, but I always just say like a motivational enthusiast. Like I just like to motivate people to become the best versions of themselves.
So a lot of people who are listening or watching this are going to say that sounds good. But how do you do that? How do you exactly begin?
I guess you start with the question. So for me, my question was, what is my purpose, or what am I here to do? Because like I said, I got fired, and that was my identity. And so I feel like that's what I said. We all look outside of ourselves as opposed to looking within ourselves. What we're here to do. So like I held myself at a high esteem for my career or my achievements, me being able to finish school and things like that, that, you know, some things my family weren't able to achieve. I was on this high of like achievement. So being stripped of that really set me down and was like, okay, well, what am I really here to do with my life? So starting with that question, what am I really here to do?
So do you recommend writing it down?
Absolutely, because if you ask that question, I'm pretty sure you'll get an answer. And it may not be, I feel like sometimes we think it's too easy. Things that we do easily, we think we shouldn't get paid for it, or it's not our purpose. So me talking to people has always been my gift. My gift is my gab. Me being able to subdue people, make them feel comfortable, all of that stuff was my gift, but I didn't know that I can actually get paid for that. So it never registered with me that can be a part of a purpose.
So your purpose isn't always something that's spelled out. Your purpose isn't always that always clear. Like I want to be a teacher. I want to be sometimes it's this gift you have that you can take and turn it into what it needs to be.
Absolutely. And I don't think it's linked to a career either necessarily. I think maybe your career could be a pathway to your purpose. So like I always say, like Colin Kaepernick, like his career as a football player was his vehicle for us to know him at that capacity. But now his purpose is to educate people, to empower Black lives and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily linked to your career.
And to use his voice.
Exactly. Because
he was in a position, if he had been just Joe Blow taking a knee, probably would have been arrested for being on his knee. But because he was in that position of power, when he spoke, people listened. Exactly.
So that's what I mean. So sometimes you can be, even in a corporate setting, you can be whatever, but you can still be an empowerer. So even me, I actually went back into the corporate sector when I came back to this area, and now I'm able to use the tools that I've learned in LA to even change the corporate setting, because I was working out there with tech settings, so it's not so structured, you know what I mean? So we're more calm and like, what is this here to teach us, as opposed to being frantic. So you know what I mean? Using what you learn and bringing it back, or for a higher purpose. Like I said, my gift is my gap, so I'm able to just like calm everybody down in a situation, no matter where I am.
Another thing that women suffer from, or people in general, but women in particular, that poverty mentality.
Absolutely.
We don't talk about money in the same way that other people do, especially if you grew up and you heard in church that money is the root of all evil, or you heard from relatives that money is the root of all evil.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that was a part of my money story too, and I told you earlier that when I would hit a certain mark in money, I would find a way to just self-sabotage myself, and I didn't know what until I actually sat down and processed those stories. So that's what I call them, like our limited stories about ourselves. So money is the root of all evil, or we can't afford that, or that's too expensive. So those are the things that we unconsciously think about ourselves, that even though we may want something, that's what's playing in the back of our head. So I just encourage people to educate themselves and then start reprogramming their mind and changing the words, because what we say is important.
That is very important, what you speak.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of times we're speaking negatively.
Oh yeah, and playing negative thoughts in our mind as well. So I can admit I can empower anybody, but the way I used to speak to myself in my head wasn't always empowering. So it's changing that. It's changing the way you even speak to yourself, so you can even be a bigger light to yourself and then to others.
How do you turn that around, though? If you've been speaking that way for years, how do you turn it around? I mean, do you look in the mirror and say that? What are some of the techniques?
Okay, so like I'm big on writing for sure. So even writing out your affirmations, and I'm big on I am. And so I'm a believer, and God is like, I am that I am. So I start with a lot of my affirmations with I am. So it's I am strong. I am a
winner.
A winner, or I always say I am a boss. I am wealthy right now. I have everything that I need. Like things like that I say to myself. And then, I don't know, I always say it's how you set yourself up for the day too. It's in your routine, and a lot of people don't know things about routine. So as far as like, I can even go over my routine. So when I first wake up, open my eyes, I do my prayer. And that's, where I thank God for waking me up, and then my to-do list to him. And then I take time and I do my meditation. After meditation, I write my intentions for the day. So I like, even in my phone, or if I'm like up, I'll write it in a journal, but I'll write my intentions for the day. So to talk to at least one person and make them smile, or to show up as the highest version of myself. These are some things that I intend to do for the day. Then I write my gratitude list, things that I'm grateful for.
That can be a practice within itself.
Exactly.
Just writing a gratitude list. And as you write, more things come to mind. I'm grateful that I woke up this morning. I'm grateful for me, for my husband and my kids. I'm grateful for this show.
Yeah.
And as you write, more things come to mind.
Absolutely. And it's always like, we say start with 5 things. My list can go to 20, 30 some days, just depending on how, I guess, my higher my frequency that is that day. It's just like, I can think my bed, my like, you know, different things. I'm able to move my body, all of my limbs. I can actually breathe, like things that, you know, I don't think about all the time and I may take for granted. I think about it in those moments. So definitely gratitude list is absolutely. So then I get up and I actually have a dance party with myself. So I have a wake up playlist, and like my theme song this year is I'm Coming Out by Diana Ross.
Yes.
So I get
You're going back in the day.
Look, but I love it. And I'm like, she's the boss. So I'm like,
yes, yes indeed.
And I get up and I dance with myself. So it's just coming up with that, and then I drink my green tea. But having that routine, when I do that routine, I actually do it because it's not something I do every day. I'm not perfect at all.
Now, I hear people say all the time, because I love to meditate. I'm a big fan of meditation. I hear people say, I don't have time. You have 5 minutes for that self-care.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
have 5 minutes to just breathe, to just get centered, to just make whatever your affirmation is for today. How do you encourage people to make that 5 minutes? Then 5 becomes 10, but make time.
I have an alarm on my phone, so every day at 7:14 is an alarm that goes off, and it's time to meditate. So it's just setting that practice for yourself. You can either meditate in the morning, lunchtime, just like you said, starting with 5 minutes. They have different apps that even guide you through things, and that's a great way to start a guided meditation, because they just teach you how to breathe and just to settle down. And for me, I used to be super reactive, and I have anxiety actually, and that was one of the things the doctor recommended for me, and it's been completely life-changing. But you know, just doing it for 5 minutes a day.
Yeah, and you might sit there and say, I don't know what I'm doing.
Exactly.
But it takes time. Just like anything that you develop, that you become good at, it takes time, but you gotta do it.
And you know what? People don't realize they do it, but it's a forced meditation. So when you can't sleep at night, that's your brain forcing you to meditate, basically, to slow down. And that's why you're thinking of all the million things you have to do, your shopping list and this and that, because you haven't taken the time to actually sit with yourself. And so usually when people are trying to sleep, that's when it's a forced type of meditation, because your brain is finally like, finally, you sit your butt down and I got you. So I'm gonna kind of stronghold you. So actually implementing it without your brain doing it for you will help.
What other steps do you take to, once you find your purpose, once you say, okay, I want to do this, then what do? You've written it down.
Yeah.
You're meditating on it.
Visualize it. See yourself in it. Feel it. What would it feel like to have, let's say, I want to make $1 million. What would you do with that $1 million? What is that going to do? Is that going to help support your family? Are you going to build you a home? Do you want to start a business? Like, start visualizing what you're going to do with that money, because you have to kind of attach it to something. It can't just be this wide open thing. Start being specific, and then actually start writing steps that you can think of, because I feel like we talked about, we go outside of ourselves. You have the answers on how to get there. Now, you may not be able to get to that $1 million mark as fast as you want to, but you have the steps already. So it may be starting this business or whatever. I'm really passionate about fashion. okay, what do I need to do to start this fashion business? And starting there, just starting at one small step and writing, I always say write every step down. I have like 1 million journals with things that I've written down that are now coming to fruition.
Well, how do you overcome the I can'ts? Because a lot of times, for example, years ago, I wanted to get into radio. I didn't know anybody. I was in a city where I wasn't from there. So I could have thought of 1 million I can'ts. How do you say I can?
Say it. Start by saying it and start. It's just like we talked about overcoming fear. Start doing more steps. The more steps you take, I think you'll get momentum. And then when you get momentum, you're going to start, I feel like I always say God starts to link you with the people you're supposed to be linked with. So you'll get attached to somebody that can help empower you. You'll get brought into a room that will help empower. You know what I mean? All of these steps will be ordered basically for you once you start overcoming the I can'ts.
A lot of people too, if they have a goal or a dream, they believe it should happen in a particular way. It should happen A, B, C, D, E. And sometimes it's A, F, Z, and T. It doesn't happen exactly the way you think it should happen. How do you kind of sit back and let go and let it be and be okay with the fact that it's not happening exactly the way you thought it should?
I have this thing on my mirror. I got this from a host. Her name is Patrice Washington, but she says she wrote this to herself. It says, mine said, "Dear Markitta, surrender, thanks God." That's it. So every time I start getting frantic about something, I look at that in my mirror and it says, just surrender. You have to surrender to the process, because when I think about, I feel like sometimes that's the importance of writing everything down. So as far as like your blessings, we really focus on our fears or things that hurt us. Like that's what we really focus on. So-and-so did this to me, or I got fired. Like these are the stories that we hang on to. But every day we experience miracles that we overlook because we don't learn in our miracles. We don't learn in our blessings. We learn in our hardships. So remembering the miracles and writing them down and seeing how, oh my God, like God really put me in this room with, I'm sitting next to the CEO and we're having a regular conversation and I didn't even know it, and now they've passed me on to somebody. Like that's a complete miracle. So just seeing how when you took yourself out of the situation and trying to control it, he'll sit you next to somebody that can change your life basically.
And everybody has a story. Everybody has things from childhood that could have either shaped you positively or negatively. How do you get out of that story or transform your story?
You have to actually process it. You have to admit that things, I don't know, we don't know what we don't know, right? So as far as like, I didn't know I was having money, like my money stories were linked to my money issues or me not being able to exceed at a certain thing. So it wasn't until I got a coach and she was able to point those things out to me where it was just like, okay, what happened in your childhood? Like, you know what I mean? So it's just educating yourself. I read a lot. So it's a lot of personal development books about money, about personal growth and stuff like that. So just educate yourself.
And be curious.
And be curious. Like, always be willing to learn. Like, always. Like, I love to listen to podcasts. I watch documentaries. I read a lot of books. So I'm always just, I talk to people. Like, that's the beauty for real. And when people start to share their stories, like, you don't feel so alone. And I think that's a key to the starting the transformation.
I remember we were talking about growing up and what you think about money. And I remember people were what we called hood wealthy, where you are driving a Cadillac, because the Cadillac, I'm a little older than you. The Cadillac was the big car in the day. You're driving a Cadillac, but you live in a bad neighborhood. Or you got the best furniture, you've got this expensive Queen Anne furniture, but you're living in low-income housing. It's like you put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
But that's the way it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you see beyond that?
you have to expose yourself to something different. Like something that changed my mind, I mean, well, exposed me to more financial abundance was when I was in college, I had a roommate of another ethnicity, and I went to her house with her, and they actually had their financial advisor at the house going over their quarter. So I guess each quarter, their financial advisor came over to the house, and the whole family got together, and they went over everything that they wanted to accomplish for the quarter, or what happened in the past quarters, and how they all can help each other. And that blew me away, because my family, we never talked about money at all, especially not in detail like that. It was just like, we don't have it. Like, don't ask me. Oh, you want it, go work for it. You get what I'm saying? So it blew my mind to see how like detailed they were about their finances, how people were like, you know what, I lost this much, I need help in this business, I want to start this business, and everybody pooling together to actually help them fund. Like it really changed my mind. But I feel like, to what you said, especially in our community, I think we wear everything on the outside just to prevent from attacking what's inside of us. And vice versa, when I moved to LA, I was invited to mansion parties and stuff like that. And when I tell you, they drove Priuses, regular clothes, they wore the same clothes 3 days in a row. Like, they didn't care about the outer appearance. So it's being more exposed to that. But when I tell you they were millionaires, like, I counted their cars in their driveways. It was like $500,000. And you know what I mean? Just sitting in a driveway, the quality of food they would eat, you know.
So you recommend talking to your children about money?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I don't have any children by birth, but I have 3 godchildren, and we talk about money. They're actually interested in entrepreneurship now because they see what I do and just being more creative. So I feel like we don't give children credit at all. I feel like we try to protect them because that's what we're taught, but they know more than we think they know, for sure.
Let's talk about the fact that you didn't call it a life coach. You
Transformational coach.
What successes have you seen in working with people?
Oh, a lot of success. So like, so I'm working with some clients now here, and just even in the last 2 months, just seeing their success. One client came to me. She wanted to do she wanted to do videos on Facebook Live, and she just could not overcome that fear. So I challenged her. Every Thursday, we set a time. Every Thursday, just get on there, even if it's 2 minutes. Just try it, right? So when what has it been, like 8 weeks now, 8 consistent weeks, she's been able to fulfill her Facebook Lives, but in that she's been able to expand her business, you know, market to people. And I just seen, when we met last week, I just seen her confidence shoot up within herself, because she was just so proud of even that step. I'm not going to say it wasn't small, but that step has, you know, she overcame that. So I love seeing that. Sometimes
I envy your generation because you're so much more open. Especially we look at the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
And how you're so much more aware of yourselves than we were at your same age.
Absolutely. And I talk about that too. I don't know, it's a lot of women in my circle. We have, we're trying to overcome like our mom and daughter issue, especially when you become an adult and stuff like that. It's a lot of different things. So I was explaining to one of my friends, like, we have to give our moms a previous generation grace because they didn't have the tools that we have. Like you said, we're more open. We're more open about going to seek therapy. We're more open to talk about our problems. We're not brushing everything under the rug. And I was like, they didn't come from a generation that did that. It's just like, you fix it and you go. And so
you just keep it moving.
Yeah. So I'm like, let's give them grace, because there's a lot of traumas that they haven't processed yet. And so we want them to be more developed than they may be. And so for me, like, my mom was a teen mom. So I'm 30. I've gotten to live a whole like 30 years without any children, without having to think about anybody other than myself. My mom had to start thinking about me at 17. So it's just like how that capped her from her growth in her personal self. So, you know, giving her that grace and saying, you know, she had to develop in a different way than I did.
Now, we've got about 5 minutes left. I want to go over specific things that people can do to find their purpose. Once they found that purpose, what do you do to begin pursuing what you were meant to do?
So ask the question, what is my purpose? Sit with yourself and actually write it out. And then also, you can go to somebody close to you. So go to a group of your 5 best friends and say, you know what am I good at? What do you think, what do you see in me? Because sometimes we don't see in ourselves what others see on the outside. So go into trusted people and say, you know, what do you think I'm good at? What do you think I can be helpful in? Or do you think I can start a business in this area? Just really consulting people that you trust. So then once you get that answer, start thinking of the things that you can do as opposed to the resources that you don't have. So don't go to the, I don't have the money, I don't know this person, I don't that. So just really sit with yourself and say, okay, what can I do? Can I research this market? Can I go to a networking event that is in this area?
So important.
So just really start writing those little things that you can have down. So all of this is on a piece of paper so you can actually have a focus. So today I'm going to email Sheila about I want to start radio. You know what I mean? And see if Sheila knows somebody. You know, it's just little steps. So then that way you can check that off and you actually see your progress, you know, because I feel like when we don't see our progress, it feels like we're not moving.
Also, you mentioned earlier seeing it.
Yes.
Seeing yourself doing that thing you want to do.
Visualizing it, feeling it. What does that feel like? What would that do for your family? Like just really birthing that in yourself. And it's like that meditation thing, like breathing, visualizing it, and it will manifest. And
also overcoming fear, because as soon as you get that idea, I can't do that, I'm scared.
Doing it scared, every step of the way, every step of the way. If you know the punches are coming, it's like when you get sucker punched, when you don't know that's coming, it's like, oh my God, that beat you up. But when you know they're coming, because that's just life, period. Life is not going to let you pursue your purpose. Like you have to go find it, right? Because if that was the case, if it was so easy, everybody would do it.
So you got to be comfortable.
You have to be.
You can say, fear, sit here, but you're going to sit here and be quiet.
Exactly. You're going to, like, look, we're not going to act up in this store now. Like, you know, that's how parents are. Like, that's how you have to address your fear. Take it from outside of yourself, sit it in the corner, and like, all right, you go here and we're going to go this way. And
so you're going to promise me that you'll come back.
Absolutely.
When that book, when you publish that book, because that's what we're going to do.
Yes. Yes. I can't wait.
And I can't wait to have you back.
Oh, awesome.
We've been talking to Markitta Gaston, and we will put all your information on the credits about Markitta in your business.
Yes, my podcast. And then you can reach me at markittag.com.
Okay, will do.
All right, thank you.
You've been watching the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Have a great day.